All right, so we're diving into something kind of interesting today.
Okay.
It might seem a little counterintuitive. We're talking about running,
Yeah.
but specifically, how slowing down can actually make you faster.
Hmm.
We've got this article, Speed at All Costs.
Oh, yeah.
It's really making me rethink my whole approach to training.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm definitely guilty of that, like go hard or go home mentality,
Right.
But this article really dives deep into the science of why that might not be the best strategy.
Yeah.
It starts by talking about our body's different fuel systems,
Okay.
the aerobic and anaerobic, which honestly I've always found a bit confusing.
It can feel like textbook stuff.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Your aerobic system
Okay.
is what kicks in during those long conversational runs.
Right.
It's like a diesel engine.
Uh-huh.
Super efficient at burning fat for fuel.
Okay.
But when you sprint, you switch to anaerobic.
Okay.
And it's powerful, but it burns out quickly. Like a shot of nitrous.
Okay, that makes it way easier to picture.
Yeah.
So constantly sprinting is like relying only on that nitrous boost.
Right.
And eventually you're just running on fumes.
Exactly. And that's where building that aerobic base through slower running is crucial. It's like strengthening the engine itself.
Yeah.
One of the ways it does this is by increasing capillary density.
Okay.
So imagine expanding a city's road network to handle more traffic.
Right.
That's essentially what's happening in your muscles, allowing more oxygen to reach them.
So more oxygen equals more fuel for those longer runs.
Yeah.
But the article goes beyond just fuel efficiency, right? It talks about how slow runs actually change our cells themselves.
It does.
Like, how does that even work?
It highlights how slower runs enhance mitochondrial function.
Okay, now you're going to have to remind me.
Sure.
What are mitochondria again?
So mitochondria are the powerhouses within each cell
Right.
responsible for energy production. Slower runs essentially supercharge these powerhouses, making them more efficient. And this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
This isn't just about running further. It's about actually improving how our bodies use energy at a fundamental level.
It's almost like those slow runs are a secret upgrade for our entire system.
It is. I mean...
But I can already hear some folks thinking, okay, that's cool, but I want to get faster,
Yeah.
not just run forever.
I hear that a lot.
What would you say to them?
I'd say without that solid foundation, chasing speed can actually backfire.
Oh, really?
You're more prone to injury, and your progress will plateau. Imagine building a house on a shaky foundation.
Okay.
It's not going to stand up to serious pressure.
Right.
Those slower runs are what make faster running sustainable and enjoyable in the long term.
Okay. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
But let's be honest. It's hard to resist that urge to push the pace.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're surrounded by other runners who seem to be flying.
It's a common struggle, especially with the rise of apps like Strava and the constant comparisons they encourage.
Yeah.
It feeds into that faster is better mentality, which ironically can hold you back.
Yeah, I can see that.
You end up neglecting recovery and pushing your body beyond its limits,
Right.
leading to burnout or even injury.
So instead of asking, how fast can I go today?
Right.
Maybe the question should be, how can I make this run contribute to my long-term goals?
Exactly. And that's where the article's focus on easy runs comes in.
Okay.
It reframes those slower runs, not as something to dread or skip,
All right.
but as a vital part of training.
I've always struggled with that.
Yeah?
Like an easy run just felt, well, easy.
Uh-huh.
Like I wasn't really accomplishing anything.
I get it, but think of it this way. Easy runs actually serve multiple purposes.
Okay.
They promote recovery by increasing blood flow to your muscles,
Okay.
kind of like a gentle massage. They allow you to gradually increase your mileage
Uh-huh.
without putting excessive stress on your body.
Right.
And they help you become a more efficient fat burner,
Okay.
saving your glycogen stores for those intense workouts and races.
So easy runs are like training my body to be a hybrid, switching between fuel sources seamlessly.
Yeah, like a hybrid car.
I never thought of it that way.
It's fascinating, right?
Right.
And of course, the injury prevention aspect is huge.
Right.
Easy runs allow you to build fitness while minimizing wear and tear on your joints and muscles.
Okay. I'm starting to see the light here.
Good.
Easy runs aren't just about jogging along.
Right.
They're like a secret weapon for building a stronger, more resilient runner.
I like that.
But the article doesn't shy away from the potential downsides of always going all out, right?
Not at all. It lays out some pretty stark consequences.
Like what?
Overtraining syndrome is a big one.
Okay.
It can lead to fatigue, irritability,
Right.
and surprisingly, even slower running times.
Wait, you can actually get slower by trying to go faster all the time?
You can.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but it makes sense when you think about how your body adapts.
Yeah.
Constant, intense training without adequate recovery overwhelms the system. It's like a car engine overheating because you're constantly pushing it to the red line.
Okay.
You also risk hitting a performance plateau where you just can't seem to improve,
Yeah.
no matter how hard you push.
That's something I think a lot of runners experience.
Yeah.
Myself included.
For sure.
It's so frustrating when you feel like you're putting in the work but not seeing the results.
Yeah, and then there's the injury risk,
Oh, yeah.
which is something I'm all too familiar with.
Right. And the article doesn't sugarcoat that either.
No.
It lists all sorts of common running injuries that can sideline you for weeks or even months. Shin splints, stress fractures, tendonitis, all things we want to avoid.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I've been there, and it's no fun.
It's not.
So we've talked about the potential downsides.
Right.
But the article also offers a more balanced approach.
Right.
It mentions something called the 80-20 rule.
It does. What is that? So this is where the practical application comes in.
Okay.
The 80-20 rule suggests that 80% of your weekly running should be at an easy pace,
Okay.
while only 20% is dedicated to those higher intensity workouts.
So it's not about ditching speed altogether,
No.
but about being strategic with it.
Exactly.
It makes me wonder what kind of speed workouts actually fit into that 20%.
Well, we'll dive into the specifics in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
But for now, let's just acknowledge that even though slower running might seem counterintuitive, it's actually the key to unlocking a whole new level of performance and resilience.
This is definitely making me rethink my training.
And I'm glad to hear it.
Stay tuned, folks, because in part 2, we're going to unpack those speed workouts and talk about how to actually integrate this approach into our running routines.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We've been talking about this idea that running slower can actually make you faster, and how crucial those easy runs are.
Yeah, and I think what's really important to highlight is that it's not about simply jogging along mindlessly.
Right.
Those easy runs, when done right, are about building that aerobic base we talked about, strengthening that diesel engine.
Right. It's like active recovery, almost like a moving meditation where you can just enjoy the scenery and let your body do its thing.
I like that.
But I'm also thinking about that 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Does that mean we only get to go fast 20% of the time?
I wouldn't think of it as a restriction,
Yeah.
more like a guideline. Remember, it's about working smarter, not necessarily harder.
Right.
And that 20% dedicated to higher intensity is where we can really focus on speed and see those gains.
So it's like having permission to unleash that inner speed demon.
It is.
But strategically.
Yes.
Speaking of strategy, let's unpack those speed workouts the article mentions.
Okay.
What are some examples of what those might look like?
Well, one that's super effective is interval training. It's like a series of mini sprints with built-in breaks. You might do, say, 400-meter repeats at a hard pace, then jog or walk for a recovery period before hitting the next one.
Okay, so it's not just going all out for an entire run.
No.
It's about these bursts of effort.
Right.
What does that actually do for us?
Intervals are fantastic for improving both your speed and your VO2 max, which is a measure of how what your body uses oxygen.
Right.
Think of it like training your body to handle higher levels of intensity and recover quickly.
It's like pushing your limits in a controlled way, almost like a game of push and pull.
Exactly. And what's great about intervals is that they're super customizable.
Oh, okay.
You can adjust the distance of each interval, the intensity and the length of those recovery periods to fit your current fitness level.
So even if I'm not ready to sprint a full 400 meters, I can still benefit from doing shorter, less intense intervals.
Absolutely.
It makes it feel a lot less intimidating to start incorporating speed work.
It does for sure. And another classic speed workout is the tempo run.
Okay, I've heard the term, but what exactly does a tempo run feel like?
Imagine running at a pace that's comfortably hard.
Okay.
You're definitely pushing yourself, breathing harder than an easy run, but you're not gasping for air.
Okay.
It should feel like a pace you could sustain for, say, 20 to 40 minutes.
So it's like finding that sweet spot where you're challenging yourself but not going overboard.
Exactly. Tempo runs are great for improving your lactate threshold.
Okay.
Which basically means training your body to delay the buildup of lactic acid.
Got it.
This allows you to run faster for longer periods without hitting that wall of fatigue.
It's like building up your endurance at a faster pace.
Yes.
I can see why that would be beneficial for, say, a 10K or a half marathon.
Right. And the article also talks about hill repeats.
Okay.
Which are exactly what they sound like.
Yeah.
Finding a decent hill and running up it repeatedly.
Sounds painful.
It can be a little bit challenging.
But I guess there's a method to the madness.
Definitely hill repeats are like strength training for runners.
Okay.
They build power in your legs, improve your running form, and help you become more efficient on inclines.
Right.
Which, let's be honest, we all encounter at some point.
So it's like taking advantage of natural terrain to make your runs more challenging.
Yeah.
It's funny, I always used to dread hills.
I know a lot of people do.
But now I'm starting to see them as an opportunity to get stronger.
That's the spirit and the beauty of all these speed workouts.
Yeah.
Is that they don't need to take up a ton of time.
Right.
Even a 20-minute interval session or a 30-minute tempo run can make a big difference.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
It makes it seem much more manageable to fit into a busy schedule.
It is, for sure. But I think it's important to remember that it's not just about squeezing in those speed workouts.
Yeah.
It's also about what we do afterward.
Right.
Recovery is just as important.
It's absolutely essential. Think of it this way.
Okay.
You're putting in the hard work during those speed sessions, breaking down muscle fibers and pushing your limits.
Right.
But it's during those recovery periods that the real magic happens.
It is.
Your body rebuilds stronger and adapts to those challenges.
That's when the adaptations occur.
So recovery isn't just about lounging on the couch and watching TV.
No.
It's an active part of the training process.
Precisely. And it can look different for everyone.
Okay.
Easy runs, as we've talked about,
Right.
are a great way to promote active recovery. But it could also be something like gentle yoga, swimming, cycling, or even just walking.
Okay.
The key is to choose activities that allow your body to recover without adding additional stress.
I love that it doesn't have to be complicated or intense.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest things are the most effective.
Exactly. And sometimes the best thing you can do for recovery is simply rest. Giving your body a day or two off completely allows it to fully recharge and adapt.
I think that's something a lot of runners, myself included, struggle with. We're so driven and motivated that it can feel almost wrong to take a break.
I get that.
But the article really emphasizes that rest isn't laziness. It's a crucial part of getting stronger.
Absolutely. And it takes a certain amount of self-awareness to know when your body needs that break.
Yeah.
It's about tuning into those signals,
Right.
recognizing when you're feeling fatigued, sore, or just not quite right.
It's like listening to that inner voice that's telling you to slow down.
It is.
Even when your mind wants to push harder.
Exactly. And that's where the article's message really resonates with me. It's not about following a rigid set of rules.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between effort and recovery, between pushing your limits and respecting your body's needs.
It's about understanding that true progress comes from a holistic approach.
Yes.
One that considers both the physical and mental aspects of running.
Beautifully said. And that's something I've learned from personal experience.
Yeah.
Both in my own running journey and in working with other runners. But you know what? I think it's time we shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the science and the practical tips, but I'm curious to hear about your personal experiences.
Yeah.
How have these principles we've been discussing impacted your own approach to running?
That's a great question. I have a lot to share about that.
Okay.
But I think we need to save that for the final part of our deep dive.
That's good.
So stay tuned, folks, because we'll be right back to wrap things up and talk about how these principles can be applied in real life. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into slower running.
I'm excited to hear about your experiences.
Yeah, before the break, we were talking about how these ideas we've been discussing have affected your own running journey.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear your perspective.
Well, it's been quite a journey, honestly.
Yeah.
For years, I was all about pushing the pace, chasing those PRs, and always striving to go faster.
Right.
But it led to a string of injuries and a lot of frustration. It wasn't until I started incorporating more easy runs and prioritizing recovery that things really clicked.
What was that shift like for you?
It was tough.
Was it hard to let go of that faster is better mindset?
It definitely took a conscious effort.
Okay.
I had to reframe my thinking and trust that slowing down wouldn't derail my progress,
Yeah.
but actually enhance it. And you know what? It turns out those easy runs are anything but easy.
Right.
They're mentally challenging in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you have to fight that urge to speed up to prove something.
I totally get that. It's like you have to quiet that inner critic.
Exactly.
It's always pushing you to go harder.
Right.
But what were some of the tangible benefits you experienced once you embraced this new approach?
One of the biggest was consistency. Before, I was always on this roller coaster of intense training followed by forced breaks due to injury.
Right.
But once I prioritized those easy runs and recovery,
Yeah.
I was able to run consistently week after week, month after month.
Same.
And that's when the real breakthroughs happened. I wasn't hitting those crazy PRs all the time, but I was steadily getting stronger and faster overall.
It's like you traded those short bursts of intensity for this sustained upward trajectory.
Yeah, it was more gradual, but more sustainable.
The article talks about how even elite marathon runners like Eliud Kipchoge prioritize slower running.
Right.
Did that example influence your thinking at all?
Absolutely. Seeing how someone who runs a sub-2-hour marathon spends the majority of his time running at an easy conversational pace was eye-opening.
Right.
It really hammered home the point that it's not about going fast all the time. It's about training smart and letting your body adapt.
It's like a reminder that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes the simplest approaches, the ones that have stood the test of time, are the most effective.
I agree.
But I'm also curious about the mental side of things.
Okay.
You mentioned that easy runs can be mentally challenging in their own way.
All right.
How so?
Well, for me, it's about learning to be present in the moment, to appreciate the simple act of running without the pressure of pace or distance.
Right.
It's a chance to clear my head, enjoy the scenery,
Yeah.
and just let my thoughts flow. It's almost meditative.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like shifting from a performance-driven mindset to one of mindfulness and self-connection.
Exactly.
And I think that's something a lot of runners could benefit from. We're so focused on the external goals, the finish lines, the medals, that we sometimes forget to enjoy the journey itself.
Exactly. And that's where those easy runs can be so transformative.
Yeah.
They allow you to reconnect with the joy of running, to appreciate your body's ability to move, and to simply be in the present moment.
It's like a reminder that running isn't just about achieving goals. It's about experiencing something deeper, something that nourishes both the body and the mind.
Well said, and I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with.
I agree.
It's not about sacrificing speed. It's about finding a more sustainable and enjoyable way to run, one that allows you to keep going for years to come.
It's about embracing the paradox that sometimes slowing down is the fastest way to reach your full potential.
I love that.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from the science of how our bodies use energy to the practical benefits of incorporating easy runs.
We have.
And even the mental and emotional aspects of running.
It's been a great discussion.
We've really done a deep dive into this topic.
We have, and I hope our listeners feel empowered to apply these principles to their own running journeys.
Me too. And who knows, maybe we'll see you all out there on the roads enjoying those easy runs and reaping the benefits of a slower, more sustainable approach to running. That's it for this deep dive. Until next time.